This project came about through the work that we're doing with another Lilly project that addresses youth and worship. And that project addresses the impact that young people have on the local church and worship, and the impact that the church has on young people, and the ability or the potential for them to stay actively engaged in worship for their lifetime. As we looked at that study, we started asking the question, well, maybe we've started too late. Maybe we need to start with children. I also have been a worship leader for several decades, and during that time, it's been my observation, certainly, that we have decreased the emphasis that our churches are putting on children. And in many churches, we're doing very segregated worship where children are by themselves and not impacted by the greater congregation. And as we look at that and that phenomenon, we know that scholarship says that children are always learning. Children are learning in every situation in which they're in, which includes their engagement with all ages. So as we started thinking about all of those factors, and then we were contacted by Lilly about the potential for a grant to study some of these things, it seemed like a perfect fit for what we were already doing and for the passions we have here at Baylor and through the Center for Christian Music Studies.
I feel very passionate about this project. I believe deeply in the ability of children to learn and the ability of children to learn about God through music. I have this idea that they are here for a time, and what a waste it would be if we did not give them the opportunity to learn about God and to learn about God through singing, for them to find their own singing voices that they can keep forever, and with that, to learn about the gospel.
I don't think there could be a better time for this project to happen than now. Certainly the time is right. For some of us who have been a part of worship and music ministry through the past several decades, we've seen many, many changes. Worship styles have affected the role of children. The decline of choirs has affected the role of children. But there's a time when many churches, most churches in fact, had some sort of children's choir and a robust children's music ministry. But we have a challenge because what we used to assume were good practices, we really didn't study those. So we don't have data to show the impact that these practices actually had on the formation of children. So now, if we're to bring some of those practices back, but more importantly, bring those practices up to date for a new generation and a new time, we have to have research in order to make those things possible and to make them happen now.
This project has three main objectives: to connect, to create, and to train. Connect by bringing together the experience of active practitioners with the scholarship and the study of theorists. To create, resources designed to cultivate the Christian faith in children. And finally, the project will train current leadership staff and students of Baylor who will go into church leadership positions. Let me tell you a story that to me was very instructive about working with very young children. Many years ago, I was a music teacher in a preschool. And this was a very cosmopolitan area of the state, and we had children from all backgrounds. And children that, even though the school was in a church, children that never went to church. And one time we were preparing to sing a song in our Easter chapel with 4-year-olds. And before we sang the song, I wanted them to understand what they're singing about. And this was about the resurrection, the empty tomb. Hallelujah, he's alive. So I used, very simple drawings, and I was trying to tell this story. This is what we're saying. This is what has happened. And this one little boy listened very attentively. And then when I finished, he said, "Can you tell that story again?" And I asked the other students, these are 4-year-olds, so they don't mind if they like it. Let's do it again. So I told this story again. And then we sang the song, and we did what we needed to do. So when he was leaving the room, he said, "Could you draw these pictures so I can tell this story to my parents? Because I don't think they know that story." And to me, it was amazing that this 4-year-old had such a reaction to the story of the resurrection, and that he was paying attention and he wanted to share that story. And I have learned that sometimes we think that some concepts or some experience may be too difficult for children to understand, but I have found that sometimes if we find the right words and if we give the time to them, they are able to understand amazing things. And to me, that was a big revelation, that if we teach them, they can learn.